Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome to our June 2024 edition of Upcoming Wargames, the video where we talk about various tabletop wargames in various states of production from game companies across the planet. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I'll talk more about that in an upcoming channel update video in about a week or so on the channel, but we have a lot of ground to cover, almost 20 games to talk about in this episode. Before we start out, however, two announcements. The first is, as always, Upcoming Wargames is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. They are a games retailer in Wisconsin who sells used and new games, miniatures, board games of all different types, pieces, parts, role-playing supplies, card-based game supplies, anything that you might be looking for. They just recently finished their spring sale, and I did pick up a few games. I'll be showing those on channel update as well for an upcoming project that I'd like to do. But if you're looking for something gaming related, I encourage you to check them out. Links are down below, and if you use one of those links, it does help the channel. As always, with Upcoming Wargames, in addition to their sponsorship, we do offer a $50 store credit giveaway to Noble Knight Games. I'll be talking about that at the end of this video. And this contest will be much easier than the puzzle that was in the last contest. So if you found that one challenging, you'll find this one easy. Stick around to the end to see how you can enter for that chance to win. Second announcement, SD HistCon, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting diversity in historical gaming, is having their SD HistCon second front online convention on this upcoming June 8th. It's Saturday. If you're not familiar with what they are, it's run on Discord, so it's all done online. Events start at a very Euro-friendly. It starts in Europe in the morning, runs for like 18 hours or something like that. There are over 40 events scheduled for this. We've got Mark Herman, David Thompson, Volko Runke, a ton of other designers giving presentations and demos and being on panels and things like that. There is something for everybody there. If you're not doing anything on Saturday, June 8th, there's a link down below. I encourage you to come by and stop by and check it out. Even if you can only come for half the day, it's probably a pretty good deal. I'll be doing a couple of sessions for it. One is I'm going to do a teach and play. I'm going to teach people how to use Rally the Troops. And then we're going to do a teach and play of the Shores of Tripoli. And then people can pair up at the end of the event to play like a quick 30-minute game against somebody else using Rally the Troops after we've learned how to play it. So if you haven't used that system or aren't familiar with that game, that might be kind of a fun event to be part of. Also, I'll be doing a second event where I'm going to be kind of a light touch MC for GMT's kind of State of the Union video, where they're going to be talking about all things GMT with a few of their designers as well. So lots of fun events. Check it out if you can. Link is down below. And now it's time to dig into our main course, Upcoming Wargames. We organize these into categories, starting out with the newly released category, game number 1. A Guest of Robin Hood from GMT Games. This game has just come out. I'm seeing people get it all over Twitter. As you can imagine from the title, one person plays Robin Hood in this game. One person plays the Sheriff of Nottingham and his henchmen, Robin Hood and his merry men. And you can guess their causes too. Now, this is a game designed by Frederick Serval, and it is at its heart, I think it's a second game now in the Irregular Conflict series from GMT Games, but it's very much a coin-based, kind of coin-inspired game, counterinsurgency type game. So as Robin Hood, you're trying to steal from the rich and give to the poor. As the sheriff, you're trying to arrest Robin Hood and arrest his merry men and control them and prevent the damage from all the thievery and stuff that's going on. So Robin Hood, very much an agent of chaos, and the Sheriff of Nottingham trying to prevent this. Now, I confess, when I saw this game, I thought, okay, I'm not super interested in it in terms of what I had seen in the topic and stuff like that. But I did get a chance to play it at Circle DC, the convention in Washington, DC, in the early part of April. Got a chance to play an advanced copy of that. It's really fun. I mean, it's not a solo game because you've got hidden movement and stuff like that. So it's very much a two-player game, plays fast. And the thing I think people will really like about it is that, many of the coin-based games are kind of hard to pick out. If you don't know the history behind the conflict or you're not certain about the history, it can kind of be hard to figure out what each agent in the game is supposed to be doing, what each player is supposed to be doing, what actions they have available. It can get complex pretty quickly. The nice thing about Guest of Robin Hood as a coin-based game is, though, you know this already. You know what Robin Hood's supposed to do, and you know what the Sheriff of Nottingham's supposed to do. So it becomes much easier to kind of conceptually figure out, okay, this is what I'm trying to do from either side. And that means that the learning of the game is much easier. It's got a really cool hidden movement system. It's two players, so it's relatively straightforward in that you've got these two agents. You know what they're going to do. Plays fast, lots of different strategies to try out. Really cool game. So I really, really like this one. If you are interested, I think, in checking out coin games and haven't really done so, or you've bounced off coin games before because of perhaps the complexity of their subject or just the complexity of so many players, this might be one you would like, especially if you like two-player games. Now, again, it has hidden movement, so I wouldn't recommend this as a solitaire experience, but if you're looking for a good two-player coin-based game, this might be something you'll want to check out. A Guest of Robin Hood from GMT Games. Our second newly released game is 85 Afghanistan, Graveyard of Empires from Flying Pig Games and designed by Mark H. Walker. Now, this game is the second game in their Squad Battles series, and this is Soviet Red Army forces against Afghani forces. It's a tactical combat game, but it's a card-driven game. I think on the simpler end, not on the high complexity end of tactical combat games. I've heard really good things about the Squad Battle system and their 65 game that was set, their Squad Battles game that was set in Vietnam. So I've long wanted to play one of these games in this series. This game came in about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It has been in that super busy work stretch that I've had, So I am looking forward to getting it to the table soon, but it looks really, really good and kind of understanding it plays fast and plays fun. In addition to that, there is this Alone in the Mountains module that you can get. This has the solitaire rules for the game. Now, I think the solitaire rules apply to the solitaire scenarios in this pack. I'm not sure if the solitaire rules can be worked to play with the scenarios that are in the base game. That part I haven't chosen. As I explore that more, though, I'll see it. I'll be bringing some content to the channel for these games as things move forward, too, now that time has kind of come back and allowed me more time to play games and create videos. So 85 Afghanistan, Graveyard of Empires from Flying Pig Games looks like a really good addition to their Squad Battles series. Our next newly released game is not a war game or a historical game per se, but it is a thinking person's game. Pole Position from Do It Games. Now, this is a very thinking and tactical automotive racing game published by Do It Games. A long time ago, did an interview on the game as it was going to Kickstarter with them. They're fantastic people, very kind and very generous. And check out, as a thank you for doing that, check out what they did on their UK board. That's a pit stop. I know. How cool is that? I can't wait to play the game and drive my car into the pit stop there. I mean, that's just going to be fun. It's like one of the highlights of my life. Like, I put this under my pillow when I go to sleep. But very much, this also came in the busy period just a couple of weeks or so ago. Very much looking forward to giving this one a shot. Now, I think if you recall way back when we did the interview, they were wondering about the solo bots they were creating for the game. And I do see now that the player levels on this game are listed now as 1 to 6 players, and they have bots that you can add to the game to enhance the experience if you're playing with more than one player. I don't know to what degree they're designed as like hardcore standalone opponents, but it is capable of being played solo now. I'll know more as I dig into the game and start playing it a little bit too. But Pole Position from Do It Games, if you're looking for a thinking and tactical racing game, this might be one to check out. Last game in our newly released category, another game that I looked at as part of a Kickstarter a long time ago, Tank Clash Western Front from Amoeba Games. This is a beginner-friendly tactical hex encounters tank combat game set in the Western Front in World War II. This would be, I think, a very good... I really like this when I played. I'm really looking forward to seeing the final version now because I had a prototype before. So I'm seeing how the rules have been finalized and the game's been finalized and the quality of production has been finalized. I mean, small footprint game, plays really fast. I would think this is a game that serves 2 really good purposes. It's kind of a game if you're looking for a fast, quick thinking game to can play fast, like in half an hour, 45 minutes or so, or if you're looking for a way to introduce hex encounters games to somebody or to an older child or something like that, I think this would be a great game to do. I really enjoyed playing this one when I looked at it a while ago, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the final version plays now too. So Tank Clash Western Front from Amoeba Games. Now let's shift into our last call games because a brief explanation of what this category is. These are games that have a kind of a pre-order price, and the price is going to go up to full price pretty soon. Our first one here is I, Napoleon from GMT Games, designed by Ted Racer. Currently at $49, but I think it's on the ship now, arriving at the GMT warehouse and getting ready to ship out to people in the next couple weeks. So that price will go up to the regular price soon. We've looked at this one on the channel before and talked about it. It was one of my instant pre-orders. It's got about 1,500 pre-orders on it right now. So a very popular game in their P500 system. The way I would choose it, it sounds like choose your own adventure of Napoleon's life. It's a 220 cards that drive this whole experience. And we can kind of see here over my head, it kind of looks like this play mat. We're going to be playing out the different experiences that Napoleon has. But, reading through this text here, it sounds like, you can be a footnote to history or this magnificent emperor. You can invade Russia or pacify Russia. You can buy, sell Louisiana or reinforce Louisiana. You're going to be managing your military campaigns, politics, diplomacy, domestic well-being of France, your wives, your mistresses, your children, legitimate and otherwise. I mean, just so many possibilities that it looks like is inherent in this game. Fascinating idea. I mean, the whole choose your own adventure and mix with military conflict and historical simulation. I love games that explore the hypothetical, and this seems like it's going to be a really, really fun experience. I should mention too, right? This is a fully solitaire game, right? I should say that right up front. So a fully solitaire game designed for one player. So I think with just the multiplicity of outcomes, it sounds like it's going to have great replayability as well. Really looking forward to this one. I have it on P500 order. I, Napoleon, designed by Ted Racer and from GMT Games. Next up in our last call series of games is The Last Gamble from Compass Games and designed by Danny S. Parker. This is kind of last call, just missed the crowdfunding, but you can still get it at a pre-order discount before it ships because Compass Games tends to run very short, quick Kickstarter campaigns just before they ship a game. So this game is getting ready, I think, in the next month or so. It should ship out and we can have it in our hands. Now, you may recall I did a bulge off in the winter where we looked at people voted for their favorite Battle of the Bulge games. This game, The Last Gamble, is a redesigned signature edition version of the 1989 game by the same name. Now, I didn't include that one in the bulge off because the 1989 version of the game was really hard to get. It was really expensive, and I knew this one was coming out in a matter of months from when we did that event. So it didn't really make sense to pay for that and then see the new edition come out shortly after it. So I was waiting for this edition. Very excited to get my hands on it. This is, I think, when we looked at the Battle of the Bulge games, there was Ardennes 2, the last Blitzkrieg, Ardennes 44, and then Enemy Action Ardennes that we looked at as kind of the top. Those are the final four contestants. I think this game has a chance and definitely would sit in that category of the top sliver of Battle of the Bulge games. A lot of people mentioned this one as being one of their favorites. Now, it is a complex game. It goes up to kind of very high complexity, I think 7 to 9, probably with optional rules out of 10 by its own rating. But if we look at the maps here, looks fantastic. There's a lot of different complexity and rules to it, but I've heard very good things about it from people saying that they've played the game. Here's a look at the counters and things like that. Beautiful counter set. And this one, it's not just kind of a reprinting of the 1989 version. They've cleaned up the errata, they've cleaned up the rules, added rules, refined it, cleaned up the rulebook, redesigned it. It's a completely, from the looks of it, it's a completely rebuilt designer signature edition of that original 1989 game. So it looks like a lot of fun. Here is the rulebook here that we can look at. It's a hefty rulebook. I think it's close to 70 pages altogether, but if we kind of click through it here, designs and kind of some pretty good amount here of at least some hexes. There's some example signs of looking at it too. And if we go up here, I think the basic game rules, if I click through this, they end on page 50 something. So again, probably 7 out of 10 on that complexity here. We're into the optional rules now. Optional rules start right here on page 52. So 50 pages of rules here. I mean, there's not a ton of text on these and there's a reasonable amount of graphics, but that's still a pretty good lift. And then as we come back in here, there's some more charts here at the end. So 60 pages of rules altogether. But it looks like it could be a very comprehensive and quite well thought out rebuilding of this classic game from Danny Parker. So I'm looking forward to checking this one out. The Last Gamble by Compass Games. Our next game in that nebulous area between last call and crowdfunding and release is Forward Defense 85, Company Command in World War III, a game designed by Ethan Redrup. Now, this is on late pledge on Kickstarter right now, so if you click the late pledge button, you can still order the game. It looks like it's scheduled to be released in September of 2024, so very much in that last chance to get the Kickstarter kind of discount types of prices for this. This is the description of this one, and I don't know much more about it other than from what I've gleaned from the Kickstarter pages. Solitaire tactical war game with RPG elements leading a NATO-sized company element and a hypothetical World War III. There are print and play and boxed versions. The game is designed solo mode up. So it's designed for the solitaire player as the NATO player. So the AI bot, the AI rules will determine the movement and attack patterns for the Russians. It's, again, as we can kind of look at the pictures here over my head, it's a square-based game, so not hexagons. We can see the unit cards off to the side. And it looks like, a couple of things here too. Units gain experience as they go through, and there is a kind of a mission-based campaign type of system where you track your units over a number of missions and play forward. So a lot of cool things. I love games that have legacy elements to them, and Forward Defense looks like it's a game that's got solo play, World War III, not tremendously complex. We'll take a look at the rules in a moment, but that campaign element where you're taking kind of a group of forces through this campaign sounds really appealing here. If we pop down here, so print and play option and then the boxed version too here. And if we look here, there were the rules here somewhere. So yes, here's the rule book, and I'm speculating, but this is probably a prototype rule book. I'm not sure, but I would guess that it is based on kind of how it looks. Not huge. I mean, this is, I think, 20-something pages or so. So we've got the campaign layer here, talking about supply phase, tactical phase, recovery phase, just kind of looking at some of the things here. Number of die roll modifiers and looking at whether you're fighting against front armor, and then it's got the setups for how you're going to set up the tactical battles. I'm not quite sure. I think the campaign missions are randomly generated here by the way it looks up in terms of setting for setup and stuff like that, so that each mission will play out somewhat differently. And then we've got the AI rules here, which start on AI turn. It's not tremendously complex here in terms of AI rules. They start on page 8, and then they come all the way up here. Yeah, they go through movement rules, and there's going to be some combat rules for the AI as well. But it doesn't look tremendously complex. Modern warfare games are often, quite a learning lift in terms of trying to get things going here. But we have 13 pages of rules. So it looks like it's going to be very much a kind of easy to learn, fast playing type of World War III solitaire game with the campaign mode built in. Forward Defense 85. Links are down below if you want to check it out, from Ethan Redrup. Next up in our last call pre-order stage is from Worthington Publishing, Franklin, November 29th, 30th, 1864. This is volume 5 in their Civil War Brigade Battle series of games. So Franklin 1864, this game is the 5th game, Antietam, Shiloh, 7 Days Battles, and Gettysburg are the previous ones. This looks like, again, a very playable Civil War system. You can recap the battles of Spring Hill and then the Battle of Franklin the following day. On November 30th, 1864. We can see the maps here and things like that. This, from what I know, I have not played a game in this series yet, so I'm kind of talking about what I can read from what people have told me, but I know a lot of people like this series as being kind of very playable, accessible, fast-moving Civil War series of games. You can see the counters here. They look great. Looks like it's going to ship later in 2024. Yeah. But we can see double-sided mounted game board here. So looks like another fine addition to the series. I have good things about this series. At some point, I do want to try to get one to the table. But Franklin 1864 in its pre-order stage will ship later in 2024 from Worthington Publishing. Let's take a look now at games that are fully in their Kickstarter mode. The first one is on Kickstarter, Hunt for Blackbeard from Fort Circle Games and designed by the esteemed Vocal Runke. This game just launched its Kickstarter a couple of days ago as I'm making this. Already almost 3 times its $10,000 goal. So it's off to a grand start here in terms of its campaign. This is a 2-player game where one player takes the role of Blackbeard in his final days in 1718. The other player takes the forces of the Royal Navy from Virginia that are trying to hunt down Blackbeard. The game takes the place on this gorgeous map here that we can see over the kind of the North Carolina here. And this is, not to be mistaken, this is very much a 2-player game. I would not recommend this as a solo experience because there's a lot of hidden information. And that's part of I think the fun of this game is that as the Royal Navy, you're trying to figure out from these clues where Blackbeard has gone, because every time Blackbeard moves on the board, he leaves behind kind of vestiges of his movement. So if we look down kind of here a little bit, you can see that on this blue one here, this is where Blackbeard's ship is. It's that black icon off to my left here. But you as the Royal Navy Force don't know that. So there's going to be places where you're going to see little clues that he's been there. You can interview informants. So it's very much cat and mouse trying to chase him down. Meanwhile, while the Royal Navy is trying to hunt down Blackbeard, Blackbeard is either trying to live the pirate's life or acts of piracy. He's got kind of one of two tracks, one of two lifestyles, really, if you would, where he's going to try to win the game. If all else fails, or to force the issue, if you can't arrest Blackbeard as the Royal Navy, if you fail at the pirate's life as Blackbeard, it can come down to one kind of epic final battle between the two forces. We can kind of see a recreation of that over my head here. Really fun game. It plays fast. Now, a couple caveats. One, I have played this game. So I got a chance to play a prototype of this game at SD HistCon in August up in Rhode Island, which was a lot of fun to play. I got taught the game by Vocal Runke. That was a great experience. I like it. As a caveat, some of these are photos that I've taken, and I did help work on the Kickstarter video that's up here. So that's just a disclaimer on this one as well. But I really like the game. It plays really fast, and I think there are a lot of different subtle strategies. It's going to be like, I'll try this, try that, try this game, try something else, the other game. There's a number of ways you can go as the Royal Navy in terms of when you launch, how much you build up, but it's only 4 turns, right? So it plays in like a half an hour to 45 minutes. And so I think it's going to allow a number of replays where you're going to be kind of exploring these different strategies. And also, I think it's a time of game because of its hidden movement kind of element. It's the kind of game where as you play more, you're going to learn the tendencies of your opponent and vice versa. So it's got very much that kind of, how am I going to outthink my opponent this time? Wait a second, I know you did this that time kind of element. So I think from that, even though it is a fast-playing game, I think there's going to be a lot of replayabilities and subtleties of strategy as you get to know your opponent and explore the different options for kind of building out your ships and stuff like that, and conducting different tactics and strategies. So Hunt for Blackbeard from Fort Circle Games, designed by Vocal Runke, on Kickstarter now. Next up is another game I'm very excited for, Rock of Chickamauga from Flying Pig Games. Now, this is the second game in the Black Swan series. The first game, of course, being A Most Fearful Sacrifice, which I have just loved playing. So it takes that same system and applies it to the Battle of Chickamauga, which was 3 days in September 1863, between the North and South in the U.S. Civil War, of course. This one looks like it's going to be the same type of scale, right? So you've got card-driven game, you've got card-driven gameplay here, big maps, 15 square feet of maps, probably tons of scenarios and things like that. I mean, the maps now, if we do pop this open here and look at this, not designed by Rick Barber, which were just masterpieces of kind of artwork here, but still looking really good in a similar vein of tactical Civil War combat here. So looks like this is going to be a fantastic expansion for the series. I just really have enjoyed my time with The Most Fearful Sacrifice, and just it's really kind of opened up the whole Civil War wargaming genre for me. So I've been really pleased with my time with that one, and I'm excited to see this one become a reality here. So this one, it does say again, it's going to come to Kickstarter in May of 2024. So more details, and I'll update the links down below as that happens, from Flying Pig Games. So check it out when it starts its Kickstarting campaign. All right, let's jump to our next game. Our next game also sits in the crowdfunding category, although as I'm making this, it has about a week to go before it launches its crowdfunding campaign. This is Operation Barclay from Salt and Pepper Games and designed by Morris Suckling. Now, this game is set in World War II, and it's basically about the Allied invasion in Southern Europe, in particular, Operation Mincemeat, because this is an intelligence-based game where one player takes the role of the Allied intelligence forces, one player takes the role of the German intelligence forces. And there are 5 possible landing zones for the Allies to land in this theater. As the Allies, you're trying to keep that hidden, and that's how you win the game. As the German intelligence forces, you're trying to reveal where the true landing is, and that's how you win the game. So it's basically Operation Mincemeat, trying to keep this hidden. And how this works is, if we look here at the map here, we can see each one of the zones has 5 tokens that are completely hidden at the beginning of the game. And you use kind of poker-like card play to win tokens that can tell you how many of these that you can reveal as the German player. And when you reveal these tokens, you start to determine where the actual landing is going to be. Now, if we look at the rule book here, by the way, I have the prototype. This will be the next video I make on the channel. I have a prototype of this game. I'm going to be working on a video for this tomorrow and taking a deeper look at the game. But basically, we can take a look at components where we've got these cards and tokens. And if we kind of scroll through, we get an idea that this is not a kind of a very complex game. I'm going to say kind of very light touch, probably a 3 complexity type of war game. where you're basically using poker-type card play to kind of determine where the landings will be. So it looks like a lot of fun game. This is not a solitaire game. Everything's hidden and things like that. So it's very much a two-player game of deception and logic and kind of trying to outthink your opponent. So this one I'm looking forward to. It should be a lot of fun. I'm excited to give this a try tomorrow. Operation Barclay from Salt and Pepper Games. We're leaving the crowdfunding category. Let's go to now to newly announced or pre-order type of games that have just caught my attention. We're back on Flying Pig Games website for more A Most Fearful Sacrifice related news. So I took a look at a Rock of Chickamauga as kind of the second game in that Black Swan series. But there's also more going on for fans of A Most Fearful Sacrifice, Pipe Creek. So Pipe Creek adds, I believe it's 4 scenarios, but it's some hypothetical scenarios that extend the Gettysburg action, basically by saying, what if Meade had left Gettysburg under a variety of circumstances? So you need the Most Fearful Sacrifice to play this. It is available now for pre-order, but this will add a separate map, more counters. One of the scenarios, I think, uses the maps from A Most Fearful Sacrifice, but there is an own 31-inch by 40-inch mounted map here as well. More cards, more playing aids, and more counters to be able to add these 4 scenarios to it. So basically expanding the gameplay for A Most Fearful Sacrifice with a few hypothetical scenarios. So it's really exciting to see this Black Swan system kind of expanding off and kind of getting more attention, as A Most Fearful Sacrifice, I think, is just a fantastic game. So it's hard to have enough of it. Pipe Creek from Flying Pig Games. Now let's shift to our category of newly announced games that are off in the distant future, things I've heard of that caught my attention and have piqued my interest. First up is a game that is so new that it doesn't really even have a Board Game Geek page yet. Steel Platoons, coming up from Nuts Publishing and designed by Mark Rodrigue. This one won't see the light of day for quite a while, probably optimistically the end of 2025. But I did get a chance to play a prototype of the game at Circle DC conference in Washington, DC in the beginning of April. It's a ton of fun. I mean, it focuses on armored combat on the Western Front in World War II. And it's aimed for a medium to medium light complexity game. It's got a lot of innovation around the way initiative works in combat and fog of war and stuff like that. I think it's going to be the type of game that plays really fast, and once you know the system, it's going to be really engaging for tank-to-tank combat. Showing some screenshots here of the game. Keep in mind, these are prototype shots, but the gameplay is quite a ways advanced, I think, in that regard. And for you solitaire players, the good news is that Mark has mentioned that there will be a solitaire mode for the game as well, which sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. There's an interview with Mark about the game up on the channel. I'll put a link to that down below. Steel Platoons from Nuts Publishing, coming up in the distant future, but for those of you that like tactical World War II armored combat, this has a lot of innovation. It might be something you want to check out. Our next game in our newly announced category is Coast Watchers, designed by Vokal Runke and to be published by GMT Games. It's in their P500 system. And good news is, just a couple of days before I'm making this, it hit its magic 500 mark. So it looks like this game will become a reality. This is a World War II game, cat and mouse, hidden movement type and hidden information type game. And if we take a look at the map here, we can see actually some design similarities to the Hunt for Blackbeard map, if we compare this too. So again, hidden information and the basic theme behind the game, although there's a lot more to it, is that as the Japanese were conducting forces in the early parts of the Pacific campaign, there were Allied coast watchers, individuals who either been left behind or positioned there to kind of keep track of Japanese movement and report on Japanese air attacks, Japanese naval movement, Japanese operations in the area. And they had to constantly risk being discovered. The Japanese, of course, are trying to find these people because they're trying to keep their operations and movements secret and hidden. So they're trying to hunt these people down and find them. There are roles with inhabitants that were keeping the coast watchers hidden or perhaps betraying them. There is just a lot of back and forth subtleties and subterfuge that's going on in this system of the Allies trying to get intelligence about the Japanese actions and the Japanese trying to put these people out of actions and keep their operations secretive. Now, in a recent additional announcement to this game, in case you missed it, we can take a look here. There's card-based missions and all kinds of things going on. The game itself has medium complexity, lower medium complexity, but there's been recently announced an entire solitaire system for the game as well. So the solitaire rating has changed. It's now up to a 9. So if you actually heard about this game earlier on and dismissed it because you like solitaire games, it might be a reason to come back and take a look at this one. I don't know offhand if the solitaire system is going to be playable by both sides, or you'll be playing it as one side, but there will be a full-blown solitaire mode for the game as well. Sounds like a fascinating one. I just read, well, not just, about a year ago, I read Ian Toll's trilogy on the Pacific campaign. He spends a lot of time talking about the Coast Watchers and all the risks that they took, and the daring and the risk versus reward and all of the things that went on with these operations and these individuals that were true heroes here in World War II in terms of trying to decipher Japanese movement. So this looks like it's going to be a fun game, as usual, with Voko's level of excellence and research and precision in the design. I think this looks like it's going to be both a game that's going to light up, like kind of make you aware of the history of these operations, tell a story that isn't often told, and yet also be a great gameplay experience. Coast Watchers on P500 from GMT Games. Next up in the newly announced games, also sticking with GMT Games, Army of the Potomac from Mark Herman. This is game number 2 in his Civil War Heritage series to follow the highly acclaimed Rebel Fury. Rebel Fury is a game I'm seeing tons of people getting to the table on social media, which is to me always an indication. We have great games, then we have great games that are easy to get to the table. Rebel Fury feels like it combines those two, as I'm hearing all the people that are actually kind of getting the game and playing the game. Army of the Potomac continues that off with a bunch of new scenarios. What are they here? Spotsylvania 2, North Anna River, Cold Harbor, in the entire 7 days battle in the American Civil War. There's also a campaign system that allows you to use logistics and attrition to string these all together in kind of a multiple engagement type of campaign system. Feels like a no-brainer. I think Mark Herman's really hit it out of the park with Rebel Fury from all the things that I've heard about it. And Army of the Potomac is just a big dish of more excellence here. So Army of the Potomac from Mark Herman and on GMT's P500 system. It's already reached its 500 orders, so it's definitely becoming a reality. Sticking with the theme of Mark Herman and GMT Games and their P500 system, another one to look at here is actually not a war game, but it's about war games, so it's definitely worthy of our attention. By Mark Herman, Wargames According to Mark. Now, this is a look inside the mind of Mark Herman as he goes about approaching and how to design and his philosophy of designing war games. Kind of a story of his life and what he tries to do as he tries to take an idea and make it into a functional war game for all of us to play. This feels like a no-brainer if you design war games, if you want to design war games, and if you are deeply invested in the hobby and have a collection of war games. This promises to be an eye-opening and fascinating and just a brilliant read. So it's a no-brainer for me. It's already got over 500 orders on its P500, so it'll become a reality. Wargames According to Mark by Mark Herman. Last but not least, in the newly announced game, this one was announced at the end of April from Neva Wargames, which is a company that I actually didn't know very much about, and still I'm kind of just learning a few things about. They have a very active Instagram account where I saw some pictures of their games and things like that. So just kind of picked up on my radar here. But this was newly announced by them at the end of April. Kursk, Rotmistrov's Offensive, which is tactical World War II combat, solitaire medium level game, 1 to 2 players, 3 hours, tactical combat in World War II. It looks like it's got a very kind of playable level map here. And if we kind of look here, these again, by the way, these are prototype images, so these are not final art. It's placeholder art, so don't judge the artwork yet by the final game whatsoever. But I mean, they got a lot of things going on with this company, a number of kind of games that they're putting out and publishing and things. And this one caught my attention. I love Tank Combat, World War II Tactical. It's kind of got a little bit of that, kind of hitting that Panzer Blitz level kind of vibe there. So very curious to see this one move through its production. If anyone knows more about it, I'd be curious if you've played some of their other games and things like that. But this one definitely caught my attention. And I've been kind of watching a lot of their stuff from Neva Wargames too, just to kind of get an idea for the different things that they make. But this was their latest one and definitely fits in the idea of upcoming war games. So we'll keep our radar out for this one as it moves through development. And there we have it. We frittered away another half an hour looking at upcoming war games in various states of production from companies across the planet. It feels good to be back making one of these again. The last 2 months, of course, I'll talk more about this in the channel update, but the last 2 months have been just the busiest time I've had in real work in the past decade or so. And it's now settled back down, about 1 week of half busy, and it's going to settle back down into its normal lifestyle again. So it feels good to be back, to be able to make videos. We should have upcoming War Games episodes again on a monthly basis going forward. So I'm excited to be back, and it's been great to make these. Now, at the beginning of this video, I mentioned I'd mentioned 19 games. I ended up doing 17. I decided as I was making this to push 2 into next month. So they'll be on the July episode of upcoming War Games. But we still have one thing left to do. That's right. We need to give away our $50 store credit to Noble Knight Games. Now, the last contest was the puzzle, and that was hard. And a lot of people liked it, but it wasn't for everybody, for sure. And so this one is going to be easy. To enter this competition, to contest, there's a drawing for a $50 store credit. And this is good across the globe. So if you're pretty much anywhere, you can get this credit. It's very simple. You want to post a comment down on the video down below and include two things. The first thing is hashtag Noble Knight, all one word, just like it is up here. And then the second thing I'd like you to put down in the comment is, what was the first war game that you played? I'll tell you mine. It was Midway from Avalon Hill. It was a gift from my brother. Played it basically till it fell apart. I still have it. Also got the Leyte Gulf expansion that was in the General magazine. I love that game. It's blowing apart carriers with your dive bombers and torpedo bombers. Oh my gosh, that game was so much fun to play. So that was my first one. Now, you maybe if you don't have a war game that you played, or you don't feel like you're not quite sure what that would categorize, you can just put in the first game that you played that you liked. That's fine as too. But some game that you played, your first memory of playing a game that you really, really liked. And if you're a war gamer, your first war game, down below in the comments with hashtag Noble Knight to enter into the drawing. I'll be back in about a week and a half, so don't waste time putting your comment down below. We're going to turn this one around quickly because I want to do a channel update in about 10 days. So we'll be back shortly to do the channel update and pick our $50 store credit winner. That brings us to the end. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in another video soon.